This is the best of the week on Relevant Radio.
Happy Advent. Thank you for being with me today during the Advent season. We are joined today by Joette Calabrese. She is a homeopathic medicine practitioner. She's been practicing for over 38 years, seeing thousands of cases. She's the founder and director of the Academy of Practical Homeopathy and Mastery. She's taught and worked with the Prasanta Banerjee Homeopathic Research Foundation in Calcutta, India, and has served on the honorary board of the Weston A. Price Foundation. You can learn more about her work, check out some of her programs if you're interested in learning more about homeopathy at joetteslearningcenter.com. That's JOETTES learningcenter.com. I want to dive into how homeopathy treats day-to-day and chronic ailments. I grew up with homeopathy. My mom had that book that would help us kind of page through what was going on. I used it. I never would have thought during labor and postpartum it was a huge help. I didn't do any pain medication or anything, and it was huge. And recovery was great with both of my children. Joette, in your courses, you teach people how to treat those day-to-day things that come up to try and avoid having to pick up and go to the doctor's office, to urgent care. And it's so surprising all that can be addressed. So talk to me a little bit about treating the day-to-day with homeopathy.
Well, let's talk about what many moms and grandmothers often suffer from. And that is anxiety or worry, too much worry, feeling overwhelmed, perhaps even insomnia, wringing their hands, feeling like there's too many concerns, this child, or that child, or my father's not doing well. That worry can be such a burden. Now, I don't use homeopathy unless there is a reason to do so. But this medicine I'm going to tell you about is so gobsmacking. It's so gentle. And you can use it and then stop using it, of course, as soon as it starts acting. And sometimes it only takes a dose or two for it to relieve the person of the suffering. And the medicine is called Ignatia Amara, Ignatia Amara, Amara. And I like to use it in either a 30C or a 200C. And it's named after Saint Ignatius, by the way. So it's a medicine that is readily found. We don't use it forever. That's the whole idea of homeopathy. The goal of homeopathy is to make the correction and allow the person to move on. But if the symptoms return, the wringing of the hands or the worry or feeling just too overwhelmed by life, what the world has gone through in the last several years, those 4 years were Ignatia years if I ever saw them. And so you use them for twice a day for a few days and see how it goes. And if there's improvement, much improvement, then we simply stop, halt the use of it. If it comes back again, a week later, 2 weeks later, 3 months later, we reinstate it. And then eventually, or maybe not so eventual, we'll find that it's really not needed that often.
What about, for example, something such as navigating cold? Onset of cold symptoms come on, people get sick. It seems to me that ever since COVID, immune systems are more hit than ever before. No matter how hard I try to boost up our immune systems, the exposure is so severe. And unless you're hiding from everyone in the world, it's hard not to be exposed today. What do you recommend, if anything, other than just riding out the colds that we all have to suffer?
Well, we can ride out the cold, and I don't think it's necessary to take a homeopathic medicine for everything. But let me turn you on to a medicine that's a combination medicine, and that happens to be made by boron, Boiron, and it's called Cold Calm, COLD Calm, CALM, Cold Calm. And you can buy it on Amazon or, as I said, in grocery stores, etc. But let's say someone's listening to this and they're in another country and they don't have Cold Calm available. And that's happened many times. I urge folks to use the medicine aconitum, ACONITUM, aconitum 200, and mix it, believe it or not, in the mouth at the same time as bryonia, Bryonia, 30. That's aconitum 200 mixed with bryonia 30 at the first sensation as though, something's happening here. And so I actually, at certain times of the year, keep both cold calm and aconitum bryonia. I used to. I don't do it so much anymore. I just don't find I get these things any longer.
So with my last pregnancy, I had severe morning sickness. Why they call it morning sickness, I don't know. It was all day, all night. I mean, I was having pain in my stomach all day and night. I could go on. It was some of the worst symptoms. And I was put onto a couple homeopathic remedies that were like jaw-dropping. It started treating it within a couple of days. It was Nox vomica, and then I think the other one was, it starts with an I. I know you're going to know what it is.
Ipecac.
Yeah, I could not believe just the turnaround, and I took it for a couple days, and that was it. And it significantly helped.
You know, another one those are very good ones for nausea during pregnancy, but you know another really great one, and this falls right back into homeopathy, similar pathology, is the remedy called tobacco, which is homeopathic tobacco that's been diluted 30 times to the 100th power, and then it will uproot the condition that tobacco would cause. If you think back, if any of you smoked, I smoked, back in the 60s. And I remember feeling pretty green myself after having had a cigarette. And tobacco was the cause.
A little bit of reverse psychology. I don't know if this works, but for all the women who are going, hey, I wish my husband would stop smoking, would that be a remedy to help?
No, but I do have, it's funny that you should say that, Joette Calabrese cigarette cessation or cigarette smoking or quit smoking, something like that. Just use synonyms when you're looking this up in my on my blog. And I do talk about that. There are some, I'm not going to say that homeopathy is going to abort the whole situation, but because whoever is smoking must have some commitment to a certain degree, because it really does require that as well.
Mm-hmm. We had a really horrific injury in our house a couple weeks ago with my 1-year-old. She fell, and it was just bad. You knew she was in pain, and she was. And, there's so much controversy and discomfort today over the use of things such as ibuprofen and Tylenol for children. I think the more you look at the research, the more disheartening it is. And I would love to kind of hear, what are your thoughts on helping to navigate, whether it's pain or overcoming injuries in the day-to-day that just happen, especially with children?
Especially first moms may not realize this. And maybe sometimes even seasoned moms, that really the danger in children's lives is not around an ear infection or a sore throat or an eye infection or an upset stomach, fevers. Those are, as long as they're within the childhood diseases category, that's not where the danger lies. The danger more lies in injuries, falling, getting burned, getting into deep water, etc. So let's indeed talk about that, because that's where homeopathy certainly can shine. Arnica, Montana. And I have to mention that Arnica, Montana is a medicine that's used in a product called Sin-Ek, meaning sin, meaning not, and ek, meaning ecchymosis. It's a fascinating product. It's only Arnica, and it's used by many plastic surgeons throughout the U.S. and Canada. Because they know that after plastic surgery, especially facial, one of the biggest problems is ecchymosis, which is black and blue, essentially. And that the swelling can take a long time, and there's a lot of pain. And Sin-Ek, made of Arnica montana, it's only Arnica montana, that's all it is, it just has another name, will not only treat the condition, but abort the problem in about half the time. And so then the surgeon looks like a hero.
And they don't know that it's homeopathy and it's Arnica, and you're treating the pain, the swelling, the bruising, all of it. And that's why you mentioned using it for everything from birth to postpartum to injuries for adults and children. And Arnica, I mean, if there's like one thing we have, if we run out of Arnica, I'm going, no.
Yeah, it's a very important remedy to have on hand. And it's good to have in a 30th potency, that's 30C, Arnica montana 30C, or Arnica montana 200C.
Could you mention maybe one other common day-to-day ailment that people have that you see they're needing to address and be capable of addressing themselves within their home?
Yes. How about when someone eats normally at home, good food that the mom is preparing, and then they go out to a restaurant, which is a little unusual for them. They eat foods that are not common to their diet, or they have too much ice cream, or they have too many desserts. And so the food is not common to generally not common to their gut. And then they feel sick. They can either have a stomach ache or nausea. It can even cause constipation, etc. And the medicine is called pulsatilla. Pulsatilla. And this one is best, if we're going to use it in this form, for this particular condition, is best in a 30C. Pulsatilla 30C for restaurant food. Ailments from restaurant food.
Fascinating. I mean, how often do you hear that today? It's so true. And I understand that from like the food allergy perspective, but people feel so sick after they go out to eat often, which is a whole nother topic in and of itself. But you're saying this helps to ease that discomfort and outright pain and among other things that people experience when they eat out.
So that also, Timmerie, the other idea is that not only does it ease the pain or the discomfort or the nausea or whatever the bloating that might be associated at that moment in time, but the next time there's an indiscretion, a dietary indiscretion, it may not bother them quite as severely because the goal here is to uproot, not to be dependent.
And that's what's different about homeopathy. You're actually treating what's going on rather than a Band-Aid. Joette, I would love to just hear some of the little touch points, kind of touching on our Catholic faith, and that I had no idea until today that St. Mother Teresa used homeopathy in much of her work. Can you share a little bit about that?
Well, I was at her convent and her home when I was in India. I spent years in India. Prasanta Banerjee, Dr. Prasanta Banerjee, was a medical doctor but used only homeopathy. And he actually knew Mother Teresa, and I loved that he could report to me that it is true. She had tables set up, and they didn't just treat the acutes. They treated long-term infections and many other conditions that the poorest of the poor were suffering in Calcutta. I love having that first step connection. It would be good for people to know that the Grand Cross was bestowed upon a homeopathic physician, and that is the highest honor a pope can give to a layperson. And it was to honor him because of the cholera epidemic that occurred in especially Italy, and the Vatican, of course, in the 1800s. And so he won that award, and many other awards were given to homeopathic physicians in Italy by popes, and because of their great work in infectious diseases. That's a very special part of our faith. And another one I want to talk about is Antonio Negro, was a medical doctor of Naples, and he was a leading Italian homeopathic physician in, the last part of the last century, I should say. He was the homeopathic doctor to Pope Paul VI, and he was granted the order of St. Gregory for his work in homeopathy, as well as his son, who also treated Pope John Paul II. We homeopaths, we Catholics, have a lovely tapestry of a history that's been intertwined for a long time, whether someone is of our faith or not. What really pulls this all together is that it fits in such a tidy fashion in my lifestyle. I homeschooled, I home birthed, I made my own foods, home cooking, I homeschooled. I wanted to have a medicine that I could use, that I had the ability to utilize without resorting to synthetic, patented drugs of commerce. These medicines, these homeopathic medicines, are not synthetic, they're not patented. That's why they're so inexpensive, because there is no patent. They're simply made by this dilution process. That's all it is. It's a very specific process. And so I wanted that autonomy. And that's exactly what it gave me.
And it's phenomenal to see that when you have this tool, it's widely used in Europe and other places in the world. And even I remember learning that the Vatican had a homeopathic doctor in residence for decades up until recently. It's neat to learn about how this was so part of our culture, but yet you have Big Pharma, you have the conversations. Western medicine can be wonderful, but often overused in our modern day-to-day. And if we can be empowered to care and treat our families, to have a greater confidence in navigating our health, it's a game changer. And I know that this is something that my mom had when she was raising myself and my siblings. And now I have in my arsenal when treating and caring for my children. I've not taken Joette's courses, but I know a lot of people who have and felt like that we're really equipped to start navigating and have a network to dive deeper into navigating health with homeopathy. You can learn more at joetteslearningcenter.com. That's JOETTES learningcenter.com. Thank you so much for your time, Joette, and we'll have to have you back on again soon. Like what you just heard? Share it with your family and friends. And thanks for listening.